Nanny came home and found the twins shivering from cold. What she did changed their lives. Dorothy Wilson arrived early that winter day and felt a chill that wasn't just from the icy wind seeping through the poorly closed window. Something was wrong in that house where she'd only worked for 2 weeks. That's when she heard a faint whimper coming from the living room. As she entered, her heart nearly stopped. She found Ethan and Noah, the 6-year-old twins, huddled in the corner of the couch, shivering with cold, their lips purple. They wore only thin pajamas, and their skin was icy to the touch. Kids, for heaven's sake, what happened here? Dorothy rushed to them, immediately taking off her coat to wrap them up. Aunt Brenda left last night, murmured Ethan, the more talkative of the two. She took the money Mom left and turned off the heater. Dorothy felt fury rising in her chest. Brenda was the housekeeper responsible for watching the boys when their mother, Jennifer Parker, traveled for work. The executive had left 3 days earlier for an important meeting in Chicago, leaving clear instructions about their care. "How long have you been like this?" Dorothy asked, rubbing the boys' cold little hands. "Since yesterday morning," whispered Noah, always the shyer one. "We slept close together so we wouldn't feel so cold." Dorothy's heart broke. She quickly turned on the heater and ran to the kitchen to get them something warm to drink. The pantry was nearly empty, just a few stale crackers and a can of powdered milk. Brenda had truly taken everything. "Stay here where it's warm," she said, covering the boys with every blanket she could find. "I'll make you some warm milk." As she heated the milk, Dorothy tried calling Jennifer, but the call went straight to voicemail. She tried 3 more times, with the same result. Frustration mixed with genuine worry for the children. At 42, Dorothy had cared for many families throughout her career as a nanny. Born into a modest family in Grand Rapids, she'd learned early the value of care and responsibility. She'd never encountered such neglect before. "Dorothy, we didn't eat properly yesterday," Ethan confessed when she returned with the milk. "Brenda only gave us crackers. And she yelled a lot when we asked for food," added Noah, his blue eyes filled with sadness. Dorothy took a deep breath, trying to control her anger. She grabbed her purse and counted the money she had. It wasn't much, but it would be enough for basics until Jennifer returned. "I'll run out quickly to get you some real food, okay?" she said, but noticed the fear in the boy's eyes. "Or better yet, how about you come with me? A little walk will do you good." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing, the twins perked up at the idea. Dorothy bundled them in clothes she found in the closet, and they headed out together. At the nearby supermarket, she bought ingredients for a hearty soup, fresh bread, fruit, and a few treats to brighten the children's day. "Are you our new nanny?" Ethan asked as they picked out bananas. "Yes, I am, and I'll take very good care of you," Dorothy replied, feeling an instant connection with the boys. Back at home, as she prepared lunch, Dorothy noticed the drawings scattered on the living room table. Each one depicted the same scene, 2 boys alone in a big empty house. Though childlike, the strokes conveyed deep loneliness. "Did you make these drawings?" she asked. "It's how we feel when Mom travels," Noah explained. "The house gets so quiet and so cold. And Brenda always gets mad when we ask for attention," Ethan added. Dorothy began to realize the problem went beyond the incident with Brenda. Those children had been starved for affection for a long time. During lunch, they devoured the soup, as if they hadn't had a proper meal in days. "My mother always said food made with love nourishes both body and soul," Dorothy remarked, watching the boys smile for the first time since she'd arrived. In the afternoon, as they played, Dorothy noticed the neighbors from the apartment next door watching through the window. An elderly woman waved at her, and Dorothy waved back. When the boys dozed off on the couch, exhausted from the difficult day, Dorothy tried again to reach Jennifer. This time she got through to the company secretary. "Mrs. Parker is in meetings all day," the secretary informed her. "May I take a message?" "It's urgent. It's about her children," Dorothy insisted. "I'll try to transfer you, but she asked not to be interrupted." The call dropped. Dorothy felt a mix of disbelief and indignation. How could a mother be unavailable when it involved an emergency with her own children? That night, Dorothy decided to stay past her hours. She couldn't leave the boys alone again. She called her sister Linda, explaining the situation. "Dorothy, you can't get so involved," Linda warned. "It's just a job." "Linda, they're just children. I can't abandon them," Dorothy replied, watching the twins sleeping peacefully in her room. "All right, but be careful not to get too attached." The next day, Dorothy arrived early again and found a note on the door. It was from Brenda, saying she wouldn't return and had left the keys with the doorman. There was no explanation or apology. As she prepared breakfast, the doorbell rang. It was the elderly neighbor she'd seen through the window. "Hello, dear. My name is Mildred," said the woman, who appeared to be around 70. "I've lived here 20 years and noticed the commotion. Are the children all right?" Dorothy hesitated for a moment, but something in Mildred's kind expression encouraged her to tell the truth. "There was a problem with the housekeeper, and the boys were left alone," Dorothy explained. "Their mother is traveling and we haven't been able to reach her." Mildred shook her head disapprovingly. "That woman only thinks about work," she murmured. "I've seen this happen before. The children are left alone too often." "Before?" Dorothy was surprised. "Dear, those children have gone through 3 different nannies this year, and it's always the same. Either the person quits because they can't handle the responsibility alone, or the mother lets them go because she thinks it's too expensive." The revelation left Dorothy unsettled. She was beginning to understand why Ethan and Noah seemed so needy and insecure. That morning, while helping the boys with their schoolwork, Dorothy learned more about the family dynamics. Jennifer was the marketing director of a major cosmetics company and traveled constantly. Their father, Michael, had lived in Boston since their messy separation 2 years earlier. "Daddy called last month," Ethan shared, "but Brenda said he couldn't talk to us because Mommy wouldn't let him." "Mommy and Daddy fight a lot on the phone," Noah added. "That's why she doesn't like it when he calls." Dorothy realized she was facing a much more complicated situation than she'd imagined. These children were caught in the middle of an adult conflict, paying the price for their parents' immaturity. By late afternoon, she finally managed to speak with Jennifer. "Dorothy, I'm glad you called," Jennifer said, her voice echoing through the speakerphone. "How are the boys?" "Mrs. Parker, we need to talk about a serious situation," Dorothy said plainly. "Brenda abandoned the children yesterday and took the money. They spent the whole night alone and cold." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "What do you mean she abandoned them? That's impossible. I've trusted her for years." "Ma'am," I found the boys shivering from cold on the couch. They hadn't eaten properly and were scared. "Dorothy, you must be exaggerating. Brenda might have stepped out to handle something and came back later. I'm sure there's an explanation." The response left Dorothy stunned. How could a mother downplay something so serious? "Mrs. Jennifer, the boys told me she took the money and turned off the heater. They were cold all night." "Look, Dorothy, I'm in important meetings here. I can't come back now over a misunderstanding. You're there, so just take care of them until I arrive on Friday." "But ma'am, that's what you're paid for. Handle the situation and stop making a fuss." The call ended abruptly. Dorothy stared at the phone in disbelief. She had never met a mother so detached from her own children. The twins, who had overheard part of the conversation, approached her with sad expressions. "Mommy isn't coming back yet, is she?" Ethan asked. "She never comes when she says she will," Noah whispered. Dorothy knelt to their level and held their little hands. "Look at me," she said gently. "No matter what happens, I'll take care of you. You can trust me." That night, Dorothy stayed late again. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving the children alone. She called Linda, explaining she'd need to sleep at her employer's house. "Dorothy, this isn't right," Linda said. "You're not their mother." "Maybe not, but they need someone who truly cares about them." The next morning, Dorothy was woken by screams from the boys' room. She rushed in and found Noah with a high fever, delirious. "Ethan, how long has your brother been like this?" she asked, touching the boy's forehead. "Since early morning. He said his head hurt and then started shaking," Ethan replied, frightened. Dorothy didn't waste time. She quickly dressed Noah and took him to the emergency room, with Ethan by her side. At the hospital, while waiting, she realized she had no legal authority to make medical decisions for the children. When the doctor asked about their parents, Dorothy lied and said she was their aunt and that their parents were on the way. Dr. Thompson, an experienced man in his 50s, examined Noah carefully. The child has a respiratory infection, he diagnosed, likely caused by exposure to cold. Were you somewhere without heating? Dorothy felt the weight of responsibility. If she told the truth, she could cause trouble for the family. If she lied, she'd be neglecting the children's well-being. Doctor, there was an issue with the heating at home, she said, opting for a softer version of the truth. Dr. Thompson eyed her suspiciously, but prescribed antibiotics and recommended rest. While waiting for the medication, Dorothy repeatedly tried to reach Jennifer, but every call went to voicemail. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers. Now, back to the story. Back at home, Dorothy cared for Noah with a mother's devotion. She made tea, applied cold compresses, and stayed by his bedside all afternoon. Ethan, worried about his brother, refused to leave the room. Dorothy, is Noah going to be okay? Ethan asked, his eyes brimming with tears. Yes, sweetheart. The doctor said with medicine and lots of love, he'll get better soon, she replied, stroking the boy's blonde hair. When Jennifer finally returned her calls, it was already night. Dorothy, I got your messages. What happened? Mrs. Jennifer, Noah is sick. I took him to the hospital this morning. He has a respiratory infection from the cold. What an overreaction, Dorothy. It was just a matter of giving him fever medicine and waiting it out. Ma'am, he had a very high fever. The doctor said it was caused by exposure to the cold. Look, I can't come back now. I have an important presentation tomorrow. Give him the medicine and take care of him. That's what you're there for. Dorothy felt anger rising inside her. How could a mother be so cold toward her own sick child? Mrs. Jennifer, with all due respect, your son needed his mother today. He asked me several times when you'd be back. Dorothy, I pay you to take care of them when I can't be there. If you're not happy with the job, I can find someone else. The threat hit Dorothy like a punch, not because she feared losing her job, but because she knew that if she left, the boys would be vulnerable again. It's not about being happy or not, Dorothy replied. It's about responsibility. These children need stability and care. They have that, they have you, Jennifer said coldly. Handle the situation and stop bothering me with details. Once again, the call ended abruptly. Dorothy stared at the phone, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. That night, as Noah slept with his fever lowered, Dorothy sat on the couch with Ethan. Ethan, can I ask you something? She said, hugging the boy. Sure. What was it like before when you had other nannies? Ethan sighed, seeming much older than his 6 years. They always left, he said. The first one was really mean and yelled at us. The second one slept all the time and didn't make food. The third one only lasted a week because Mum said she was lazy. Did you like them? Not really. They didn't play with us or make yummy food like you. Dorothy's heart ached. Those children had been through so many people they could barely form attachments. Ethan, do you remember when your parents lived together? A little. They fought a lot, and Dad left the house a bunch of times. Then Mum would cry and lock herself in her room. We'd be alone in the living room watching TV. Dorothy began to understand the root of the boys' behavioral issues. They'd grown up in an environment of conflict and emotional neglect. The next day, Noah was better but still needed rest. Dorothy decided not to take him to school and asked Ethan to stay home too, so the brothers wouldn't be separated. That morning, as the boys watched cartoons, the doorbell rang. It was Mildred, the neighbor, bringing homemade soup. How's the little one? She asked, concerned. Better, thank you. You're very kind, Dorothy replied. Dear, can I speak with you privately? Mildred gestured to the kitchen. They stepped away from the boys. Dorothy, I need to tell you something, Mildred said, lowering her voice. I've seen a lot of troubling things in this house. Children crying alone, strangers coming and going, phone arguments. Did you ever do anything about it? I tried talking to the building manager a few times, but nothing was done. The children's mother has influence and resources. People are afraid to get involved. Dorothy felt a chill in her stomach. If the situation had been known by the neighbors for so long, it meant the problems ran deep. "Mildred, can I count on you if something serious happens?" "Of course, dear. Those children need protection, and you're the first person I've seen who truly cares for them." That afternoon, when Jennifer finally called to check on Noah, Dorothy decided to be more direct. "Mrs. Jennifer, we need to talk in person when you get back. The situation here isn't sustainable." "What situation, Dorothy? You're being overly dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic. I'm taking care of 2 children who were abandoned by the nanny, who got sick due to neglect and clearly need more attention from their parents." "Look, Dorothy, if you're unhappy with the working conditions, I can fix that quickly. I have a list of babysitters waiting for an opportunity." "It's not about me, Mom. It's about Ethan and Noah. They need stability and proper care." "They have that. We pay well for them to have the best," said Jennifer, irritated. "Money doesn't replace a mother's presence," Dorothy shot back, unable to hold back. There was a tense silence on the other end of the line. "Dorothy, you're overstepping the boundaries of your job. Take care of the children and keep your opinions to yourself." "Mrs. Parker, I've been a nanny for over 20 years. I've cared for dozens of families and never seen children as starved for affection as Ethan and Noah." "Enough!" Jennifer exploded. "You're fired. Pack your things and leave today." The call ended with a slam. Dorothy stared at the phone, feeling her world collapse, not because she'd lost the job, but because she knew she was abandoning 2 children who needed her. Ethan and Noah, who had overheard part of the argument, approached her with wide eyes. "Dorothy, are you leaving?" asked Ethan, his voice trembling. "Did Mommy send you away because we got sick?" added Noah, starting to cry. Dorothy knelt and hugged both boys tightly. "Listen carefully to what I'm about to say," she said, holding back tears. "It wasn't your fault. You're wonderful boys, and anyone would be lucky to care for you." "But are you really leaving?" Ethan insisted. Dorothy looked at those angelic little faces and made a decision that would change everything. "I'm not leaving right now. I'll stay until your mother gets back and finds someone trustworthy to take care of you." That night, Dorothy called Linda and told her what had happened. "Dorothy, have you lost your mind? You got fired and you're still working for free," said Linda, exasperated. "Linda, you have children. Can you imagine abandoning 2 6-year-olds in a situation like this?" "No, but I also couldn't get into trouble over someone else's kids." "They're not someone else's kids to me. They're 2 children who need protection." The next morning, Dorothy woke up determined. She called Michael, the boy's father, getting his number from the house phone book. "Hello?" answered a man's voice. "Michael? My name is Dorothy Wilson. I'm your son's nanny. I need to speak with you urgently." "Nanny? I didn't know they had a new nanny. How did you get my number?" "Mr. Michael, Ethan and Noah are going through a tough time. Mrs. Parker travels constantly and leaves them alone with nannies who don't care about them." Michael paused. "Dorothy, you know I can't interfere in their routine. I have limited custody rights." "Sir, your son was in the hospital yesterday with a respiratory infection because he spent the whole night alone and cold. The nanny responsible ran off with the money." "What? Noah was in the hospital?" Michael's voice changed. "Yes, sir. And when I called Mrs. Parker, she downplayed it and refused to come back. This can't be happening. Dorothy, can you tell me everything in detail?" Dorothy recounted all the events of the past few days. Michael listened in silence, interrupting only to ask specific questions. "Dorothy, I'll take the first flight to Chicago. Can you stay with them until I get there?" "Of course, Mr. Michael. But you should know I was fired yesterday. I'm here on my own." "What do you mean fired?" "Mrs. Parker fired me because I questioned the children's situation." Michael sighed deeply. "Dorothy, you did the right thing. I'll be there tonight." When Dorothy told the boys their father was coming, the reactions were mixed. "Is Daddy going to fight with Mommy again?" asked Noah, worried. "I hope he takes us to Boston," said Ethan. "We won't be alone there. Boys, your father wants to work things out so you'll be okay. That's what matters," Dorothy explained. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Michael arrived in the late afternoon. He was a tall man, around 40, with a concerned expression. When he saw his children, he knelt and hugged them tightly. "Daddy," the boys shouted in unison, running into his arms. "My princes, how are you?" he said, visibly moved. "Dorothy took care of us when Noah got sick," Ethan shared. "And she makes tasty food and doesn't yell at us," Noah added. Michael looked at Dorothy with gratitude. "Dorothy, I don't know how to thank you for looking after them. From what I hear, you saved my children." "Mr. Michael, anyone would have done the same," Dorothy replied modestly. "No, Dorothy. Sadly, that's not true. You risked your job to protect two children who aren't even yours." They talked at length while the boys played. Michael shared his side of the separation, revealing he'd tried for joint custody, but Jennifer used her influence and resources to limit his rights. "She claimed I wasn't financially or emotionally stable," Michael explained. "Since I work in consulting, sometimes I go months without steady income. Jennifer proved I couldn't provide the same standard of living she could." "But what about the children's emotional well-being?" Dorothy asked. "The judge prioritized finances. Jennifer hired the best lawyers and showed she could afford private school, health insurance, nannies. What the judge didn't see was that she's never around." Dorothy began to understand the complexity of the situation. Michael wasn't an absent father by choice, but by legal force. When Jennifer arrived that night, she found Michael in the living room with the kids and Dorothy in the kitchen. "What are you doing here?" she asked, surprised and irritated. "I came to check on our children," Michael replied firmly, "and from what I've learned, they've been neglected." "That's ridiculous. They have everything they need." "Jennifer, Noah was in the hospital with a respiratory infection because he was left alone and cold all night. How do you explain that?" "It was a one-time issue with the housekeeper. These things happen." "No, Jennifer. According to Dorothy and the neighbors, this has been going on for months." Jennifer glared at Dorothy angrily. "You! I told you to leave. Why are you still in my house?" "Because someone had to take care of your children," Dorothy answered, meeting her gaze. "You have no right to interfere in my family," Jennifer snapped. "And you have no right to neglect two innocent children," Dorothy fired back. Michael stood, stepping between the two women. "Enough," he said. "Jennifer, let's talk civilly about our children's well-being." "There's nothing to discuss. You have no right to show up here and question how I raise them," Jennifer retorted. "I do, because I'm their father," Michael said firmly. "And if you keep neglecting our children, I'll take legal action to revisit custody." Jennifer paled. She knew with evidence of neglect, Michael could realistically gain more custody rights. The boys, who'd overheard the argument from the living room, appeared in the kitchen clinging to each other. "Why are you fighting?" Ethan asked, his eyes filled with tears. "We don't want you to fight," Noah added. Dorothy knelt down to their level. "Boys, your parents aren't fighting. They're talking about how to take better care of you," she said, trying to calm them. Jennifer looked at her sons and for the first time seemed to truly notice the impact of her actions. "Ethan, Noah, go back to your room. The adults are talking," she said, but without her usual sharpness. "We don't want to go to our room," Ethan said. "We want to stay with Dorothy." "And with Dad," Noah finished. The boys' clear preference for their nanny and their father was a hard blow for Jennifer. She realized she had lost her connection with her own children. Michael suggested they talk privately, without the kids present. They moved to the living room, leaving the boys watching TV. "Jennifer, I didn't come here to fight or cause trouble," Michael began. "I came because I heard our children are hurting." "They're not hurting, Michael. They have everything they need," Jennifer insisted. "Money isn't everything, Jennifer. They need presence, affection, stability," Michael said. "I work to give them the best future possible. And what good is the best future if they won't have good childhood memories?" Michael countered. Dorothy watched the argument in silence, seeing two adults who clearly loved their children, but had completely different views on how to show that love. "Can I give my opinion?" Dorothy asked timidly. Jennifer and Michael turned to her, waiting. "I've worked with many families in my career. I've seen rich and poor parents, present and absent ones. But one thing I've learned, children don't need perfection. They need consistency. Ethan and Noah are wonderful boys, but they're confused and needy. Needy for what? Jennifer asked defensively. For routine, for knowing someone will always be there when they need them, for feeling like they're a priority in someone's life, Dorothy explained. They are my priority, Jennifer said. Mrs. Jennifer, with all due respect, when was the last time you asked how their day at school was, or knew what food they like, or noticed that Noah is afraid of the dark, and Ethan loves to draw? Jennifer fell silent. She realized she couldn't answer any of those questions. Michael seized the moment. Jennifer, I'm not trying to take the boys from you, but they need more attention. If you can't give it, we need to find someone who can. Like who? Jennifer asked. Like Dorothy, Michael said simply. The boys clearly trust her, and she's shown more care in a week than some people do in years. Jennifer looked at Dorothy, seeing her in a new light. Dorothy, why do you care so much about them? Jennifer asked. Dorothy took a deep breath before answering. Because they remind me of myself as a child, she said, her voice wavering. My parents worked a lot, and I spent days alone with maids who didn't care about me. I know what it's like to grow up feeling like you're no one's priority. And how did that affect your life? Jennifer asked, genuinely curious. It took me years to learn to trust people and form healthy relationships. I don't want Ethan and Noah to go through the same. Jennifer stood and walked to the window, looking down at the lit-up city below. She was reflecting on her own choices and priorities. Michael, if I agree to let you spend more time with the boys, do you promise not to try to take them from me? She asked, still facing away. Jennifer, I never wanted to take our children from you. I just want to be more involved in their lives, Michael replied. And Dorothy? Jennifer turned to the nanny. If I rehired you under better conditions, would you accept? Dorothy looked at both parents, seeing a real chance to help those children. I'd accept, but with a few conditions, she said. What conditions? Asked Jennifer. First, authority to make decisions about the children's well-being when you're traveling. Second, direct communication with Mr. Michael whenever necessary. Third, fixed hours and respected time off so I can maintain my own life. Michael smiled, impressed by Dorothy's determination. Those are very reasonable conditions, he said. Jennifer hesitated for a moment, realizing she'd have to give up some control. And in return, what do you offer? She asked Dorothy. Total dedication to Ethan and Noah's well-being, daily reports on their activities and development, and most importantly, the certainty that they'll never feel abandoned again. At that moment, the boys walked into the room. Did you stop fighting? Ethan asked. Yes, sweetheart, Jennifer said, kneeling to his height. Actually, we were talking about how to take better care of you. Is Dorothy going to keep being our nanny? Noah asked hopefully. Jennifer looked at Michael, then at Dorothy. If she wants to, yes, Jennifer replied. The boys ran to hug Dorothy, who was moved by their affection. Does that mean we'll get more time with Daddy too? Ethan asked. Much more time, Michael promised, hugging his sons. In the following days, the household dynamic changed completely. Jennifer started spending more time at home, observing how Dorothy interacted with the boys. She was impressed by the nanny's patience and warmth. How do you get them to do their chores without complaining? Jennifer asked Dorothy. I turn everything into a game, Dorothy explained. Kids learn better when they're having fun. And how do you know when they're lying? I pay attention to the details. Noah fiddles with his ear when he's nervous, and Ethan avoids eye contact when he's not telling the truth. Jennifer realized she didn't know these details about her own children. She began observing more closely, discovering little things she'd never noticed before. Michael started visiting the boys twice a week, always coordinating schedules and activities with Dorothy. His relationship with Jennifer, though still tense, became more civil. Dorothy, can I ask you a personal question? Jennifer said one afternoon as they watched the boys play in the park. Of course. Do you have children? Dorothy paused, a shadow of sadness crossing her face. I did, she said simply. You did? What happened? I lost my son when he was 8, a rare illness. Since then, I've cared for other children as if they were my own. Jennifer was shocked by the revelation. Dorothy, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. It was a long time ago. But taking care of Ethan and Noah helps keep alive the love I still have to give. Jennifer began to understand why Dorothy was so devoted. It wasn't just a job for her. It was a personal mission. 2 weeks later, during a parent-teacher meeting, the boys' teacher praised their significant improvement in behavior. Ethan and Noah are more engaged, more confident, the teacher said. What changed at home? Jennifer glanced at Dorothy, who stood beside her. They've gained more stability, Jennifer replied, and people who truly care about them. That night, as she tucked the boys into bed, Dorothy noticed how different they seemed, happier, more secure, more affectionate. Dorothy, will you stay with us forever? Noah asked. As long as you need me and want me here, she answered. We'll always want you, Ethan said, hugging her. Jennifer, watching from the doorway, felt a pang of jealousy mixed with gratitude. Her sons finally had the present maternal figure she hadn't been able to be. 3 months later, the routine was fully established. Jennifer reduced her travels and began working more from home. Michael visited the boys regularly and participated in important decisions. Dorothy became the bridge between everyone, facilitating communication and ensuring the children's well-being. Dorothy, I need to tell you something, Jennifer said one Saturday afternoon. Of course. I received a job offer in New York. It would be a big promotion, but it would mean being away from the boys for 6 months. Dorothy felt her heart tighten. She knew how difficult this decision would be for everyone. And what did you decide? I turned it down, Jennifer said, surprising Dorothy. I realized there are things more important than money and professional success. That was a brave decision. It was a necessary one. I almost lost my children because of my unchecked ambition. Dorothy smiled, seeing Jennifer's genuine transformation. The boys will be so happy to know you'll be around more. Dorothy, I have another offer for you, Jennifer said. How would you like to move in here permanently? We have an extra room that could be yours. That way you'd truly be part of the family. Dorothy was taken aback by the offer. She had never lived with a family she worked for before. It's a generous offer, but I need to think about it. Of course, no rush. I just want you to know you're more than a nanny to us. You're the person who saved our family. That night, Dorothy called Linda to share the news. Dorothy, are you sure this is what you want? Linda asked. Linda, for the first time in years, I feel like I have a real family. Ethan and Noah see me as their mother. Jennifer respects me and Michael trusts me. And you're happy? Very happy. I feel like I'm in the right place, doing the right thing. The following week, Dorothy accepted the offer. She moved into the house for good, arranging her room and bringing her few personal belongings. The boys were overjoyed at the news. Now you'll be here when we wake up every day, Ethan asked. Every day, Dorothy confirmed. And when we get sick, you'll take care of us? Noah asked. Always, Dorothy promised, hugging them both. Dorothy's constant presence brought a stability the family had never known. The children improved in school, became more sociable, and developed a closer bond with both parents. Seeing the harmony at home, Michael proposed revising the custody agreement to Jennifer. Jennifer, how about we make shared custody official? Now that we have Dorothy to provide stability, I can be more involved. Jennifer agreed, realizing it was best for everyone. The family was finally functioning as it should. A year later, during the twins' birthday party, Dorothy watched the scene with contentment. Ethan and Noah played happily with their friends. Jennifer and Michael talked civilly about the boys' future plans, and she felt truly at home. Dorothy, can I talk to you? Said Mildred, the elderly neighbor who had been invited to the party. Of course, Mildred. I want to thank you for everything you've done for these children. You've changed not just their lives, but the whole families. They've changed my life too, Dorothy replied, moved. How so? They gave me a reason to live again. After I lost my son, I thought I'd never be a mother again. But Ethan and Noah gave me that feeling back. Mildred smiled, touched by the story. Sometimes God puts the right people in the right place at the right time, she said. When the party ended and all the guests had left, the family gathered in the living room. Dorothy, we want to give you something, Jennifer said, handing her an envelope. Dorothy opened it and found legal documents. What is this? It's an emotional adoption, explained Michael. You won't be the boy's biological mother, but you'll be legally recognized as a maternal figure. You'll have the same rights and responsibilities as we do. Dorothy Wilson was speechless, tears streaming down her face. Are you sure about this? Absolutely, said Jennifer Parker. You saved our children and our family. It's only fair you're officially recognized. The boys, who had been eagerly waiting for Dorothy's reaction, rushed to hug her. Now, you're really our mom? Asked Ethan. Yes, my love, replied Dorothy, kissing his forehead. Forever? Asked Noah. Forever, confirmed Dorothy. The end. And you? What did you think of this story of transformation and love? Which moment touched you the most? Leave a comment sharing your thoughts and where you're watching from. Do you think Dorothy made the right decision? We'd love to hear your perspective. Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories.